Northern Hemisphere team of 2019. Had a crack. It's pretty tough. I find the Northern Hemisphere one always a bit tougher than I do the Southern Hemisphere one, mainly because I watch a lot more Super Rugby than I do like Premiership, Top 14, Pro 14, etc. I've watched all the Six Nations. I've watched all the Rugby World Cup games, so I've seen plenty of these guys in action. I've tried to get a balance of across the year rather than just focusing on the Rugby World Cup. But yeah, we'll see how things go. To be honest, there's a fair bit of English and Welsh dominance here, but I guess given that those two teams were pretty much first and second in the Six Nations and they got the furthest in the Rugby World Cup for the Northern Hemisphere teams, I guess that kind of makes sense. But as always, you guys chuck me your 15 in the comments as well, because I always see ideas, combinations and whatnot that I hadn't thought of, and often better than the one that I've come up with. But here we go. I'll give it a crack and you guys can let me know your thoughts. Front row, I've gone with Alan Dell, Ken Owens and Tyke Furlong. So I've got a Scotsman, a Welshman and an Irishman in that front row. To be fair, at loose head, I'd probably go with Mako Vunipola, but he only played like 2 games of the Six Nations and he missed pretty much the whole pool stages of the Rugby World Cup, so I kind of ruled him out based on game time played. And I haven't looked up the stats, but I seem to remember Alan Dell playing a lot. I know the guy's a tackling machine and I do have a good soft spot for him. He is definitely not the world's number one scrummaging loose head, but he's good enough. Which is a funny thing to say when you're trying to pick a team of the year. And he tackles like a champion. Tackling, he has no problem at all. So I've picked Furlong mostly there on his scrummaging, although towards the end of the year his ball carrying ability seemed to have a bit of a renaissance. So yeah, he's world class as well. And Ken Owens, tackling like mad and just all round work rate. Guy usually plays close to 80 minutes as well. So yeah, a bit of a legend for Wales. So that's the front row. Second row, I have got my first Englishman there in Maro Itoje. I know he's a bit of a divisive figure. Some people do not like that guy, but man, especially at the World Cup, the guy was phenomenal. He was the leading turnover man by a mile. Absolute star. I know some people kind of talked him down for his performance in the final, but I mean, over the year, the guy has put in some excellent shifts, and alongside him I've put Alan Wynne-Jones, another guy who is just an absolute tackling machine, and just the work rate is phenomenal. For a guy his age, he shouldn't have that much energy, but he sure does, and yeah, pretty happy with him there in the second row. The back row, again, it's a little bit of a mix. I've gone with Tom Curry on the blind side, so this team is not going to be lacking for tacklers. Justin Tipuric on the open side, again, tackles and turnovers from him. Likewise, Curry, man. So I think in terms of work on the ground, that's a pretty lethal combo. It's kind of similar to what the English do with Underhill and Curry. And then I've put Billy Vunipola there at number 8 because his runs, tackle busts, offloads, the fact that he almost always gets over the gain line and sets guys up, just adds that extra bit of punch. So pretty happy with that. I mean, I would like to put like a Peter O'Mahony there as well for that extra bit of line-out work, but Justin Tipuric's very good at that too. Tom Curry jumps from time to time, so yeah, Itoje and Wynne-Jones will have to step up as well. But yeah, pretty happy with that. 4-pack, the backs, I've gone with Gareth Davis at number 9. Very dangerous ball runner, so I think over the course of the year he made some defenders look pretty silly, and his distribution skills are always there as well, so pretty happy with him. Number 10, I've gone with Owen Farrell, the boot, and for the most part, the control of the game. He does have a bit of a temper. He's not the only guy who has a bit of a temper, so I think if you're picking a captain for the side, you probably go with Alan Wynne-Jones because he is a slightly bit more level-headed. When Farrell gets ticked off, maybe he doesn't speak to the ref in that kind of... I mean, I've seen it happen to Kieran Reid as well in that Lions tour. He kind of got a bit riled up, whereas Alan Wynne-Jones doesn't really suffer from that. He's just always class in terms of that captaincy. But in terms of running the show, happy with Farrell there, and he can drop to 12 if needs be as well. But at 12, I've gone with Manu Tuilangi. He actually had a year where he seemed to be fit for the majority of it, which is nice to see because that guy's had some injury problems. Again, kind of like having Vunipola there as well. He is just that X-Factor player who is going to get the ball over the advantage line and set up other guys, or even if you use him as a distraction, he's going to draw two defenders and then he can create space for somebody else. Gary Ringrose, I've gone with 13. That guy is just... he's everywhere. He's got a bit of an eye for the try line in recent times as well. To be fair, I've seen him get a couple of hat-tricks from Leinster recently. But overall, that guy is just class. I mean, in the last year's team, I had a whole lot more Irish guys than I do in this one. But that guy stood out to me as having had a pretty good year, even if Ireland perhaps took a step back from where they were in 2018. The outside backs, I've gone with Josh Adams on the left wing. That guy had a year to remember, probably his best year. I mean, in the World Cup, he was phenomenal. In the Six Nations, he was a difference maker. So, yeah, man, that guy was awesome. Look up that try for him in the Six Nations against England. Oh, my Lord, it was just crazy. Right wing, I have gone with the French player, Damian Penn. He is always dangerous. He seems like a bit of a twit in terms of I've seen him... like, was he celebrating and giving the other team a whole bunch of grief, which is, I guess, competitive spirit. You can do that, but they ended up going on to lose the game, which I kind of felt like served him right. But in terms of his gameplay, I cannot doubt how dangerous he is. It's always nice to see him back in France look more dangerous when he is playing. He can jump into the midfield as well if needs be. And fullback, I was umming and ahhing, but I decided to go with Liam Williams. He was definitely next level at the Six Nations. He didn't have quite the same impact at the World Cup, but my memory is long enough to remember that the Six Nations, he was an absolute difference maker as well. He just puts out all those fires at the back. You will not find a more reliable pair of hands. I think he had a couple of injury woes at the World Cup, but still, he was still very good. I mean, Josh Adams kind of stole the limelight in terms of the World Cup as well, but Liam Williams, just phenomenal player, very safe pair of hands, and able to diffuse a lot of those teams which like to kick the ball to the back. So that's the starting 15. As I said, Welsh and English dominance there. The bench, I went with Jamie George as my hooker. I think that guy stepped up to the plate very nicely, and he has some good numbers. Loose head prop, I've gone with Keita Inagaki. Remember, Japan is in the Northern Hemisphere. That guy, I think, is absolutely very underrated. Very good scrummager and very good around the park. One of the best loose head props going. You might not think Japan props. The guy is very good. If you haven't seen him play, go back and watch him some more because he is class. Tight head, I go with Kyle Sinclair. To be fair, you could start him based on the World Cup performance ahead of Furlong, given how England went on and made the final. Not the final he would have wanted, but that kind of stuff just happens. But still, overall, his distribution skills for a prop are pretty amazing. It's not what he's there for. He's good at his core role as well, but that is what it is. Lock, I've gone with James Ryan. Kind of like Alwyn Jones in terms of his work rate. He always leads the stats in terms of like carries and tackles. He is just everywhere, and he's going to have a long career ahead of him. Loose forward, I have gone an Italian and Jake Pelledri. His numbers at the World Cup, even though they only got to play a few games, were absolutely barnstorming. And he seems to have that effect on the game. He's able to add just that kind of X factor, that game breaking stuff which you might need. So if the likes of Curry and Tippett are kind of your maybe slightly more defensive minded players, you can bring on Pelledri to add a bit of pain at the end. Reserve scrum half, we're going with Antoine Dupont from France. I think he's proven himself one of the best nines in the world as well, and hopefully with him and maybe Ntamak running the show at 9 and 10 for France going forward, they will have a bit of a renaissance of their own. New coaching group and everything with France, so we'll see how he goes. And I'm going to require him to cover 9 and 10. So either Gareth Davis or Owen Farrell is going to have to play 80 because I've put Hadley Parkes as my reserve midfielder. Again, he's not a real sexy pick, and he probably should start. You could bring on maybe Manu Tuolangi as your game breaker, but Parkes is just Mr. Consistent. He makes his tackles, he's got his distribution. For the most part, his passing's on point. think he might have had, when he had like a broken hand in the World Cup, one game where his passes just kept going forward, but that's the exception rather than the rule. Awesome player. And outside back cover, he can cover fullback and he can cover the wings. I've gone with Kotaro Matsushima. Again, another Japanese international. World Cup, he was one of the top try scorers. Pacific Nations Cup, one of the top try scorers. I could have gone with him or Fukuoka. But I've never seen Fukuoka play fullback, but I've seen Matsushima play fullback, so I've gone with him. Very good year all round. So yeah, that's the team. It's definitely light on Scots and Italians and Japanese, to be fair, based on their World Cup performances. It's light on the Irish squad, who's got a whole bunch of guys who could easily walk in, but again, kind of based on the year they had, it's maybe more of a 2018 thing. I'll give a few special mentions. I mean, Bramstein for Italy is class as well. Aturia for France is one of my favourite French guys, and Tamaka I already mentioned. Finn Russell. If I was going to have a backup 10, I think I'd probably go with Russell, but you can see I didn't really put a backup 10 in there because Dupont can play 9 and 10, more 9, but he can play 10 in a pinch, so I'm pretty happy with Farrell to go the 80 anyway. Jonathan Davis, he was in my squad last year, but I've gone with Ringrose and Tuilangi for this one, so him and Parks make a really good combination. Stockdale, he's a fantastic player. I don't think he scored any tries in the World Cup, so it just didn't quite go his way for the World Cup. Johnny May, again, probably my favourite English player. He could easily be there ahead of like Pinot. Henry Slade as well. Shota Horie for Japan. If you're picking a hooker based on stats alone, you probably go with him. O'Mahony, like I already mentioned. Navidi for Wales. A few of these guys maybe didn't get a run based on injuries and whatnot, but yeah, that's the squad. That's it. You guys let me know your thoughts. As I said, do put your 15 in there as well. I could have definitely mixed things up a wee bit. I've put some special mentions there as well, but I could have kept going on and on and on because I do feel bad that I haven't put more Japanese guys in there. None of them start. Yeah, I've got a Scot starting, and the Scots got knocked out before the quarterfinals, so maybe that's not right. But then again, you can't just pick guys based on the country. You got to put them on merit. So anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts. And yeah, I will talk to you again soon. See you later.